Hello my friends, I'm Buck Weezer and you've tuned to Buck Small Engine DIY on YouTube. Have you ever dived into a project even against your better judgment? I often decline the opportunity to work on some of this smaller two-stroke low-end power equipment, and but I decided to go for it here. And look, I've got this thing on my table in so many parts you probably can't even recognize what it is. What I have here is a Poulan Pro SM400 leaf blower, and I was reluctant to tackle it, but I didn't have a whole lot of other projects going on at the shop at the time, and also my first couple of initial tests were successful, so I decided it might be worth fixing. So let me give you a closer look, and maybe this can be of some help to you if you're working on one of these leaf blower machines. Yeah, so here it is out on the table, and I really had to split the thing completely in half so that I could access the fuel tank. But let me back up. The first thing I do when a two-stroke machine like this comes in is I have a compression tester, and I remove the spark plug and plug in the compression tester and pull the string a few times. This thing has 115 or 120 pounds of compression, and that to me is good, pretty good. I don't want to work on something if it's got much under 100 psi, but this passed that test. I then used my inline spark tester, and I determined that I did have spark. I put in a new spark plug, and then using some starting fluid, just a quick shot into the carburetor, it ran briefly on that starting fluid. And I'm not going to run it for very long on starting fluid, but just for a quick initial test to see if it has the desire and ability to run, and it does. So it's at that point, so all right, let's see what we can do. So next I went over to the gas tank and I took the lid off, and I could see that it's all kind of debris in the bottom. That's old fuel line that's just deteriorated. And I tried to rinse out a little bit, and out came the old filter and some more broken lines. And I realized that what I got to do is remove that tank from the machine, and there was no way, and replace those lines and replace the carburetor, but there's no way to access it without completely taking this thing in half. So I spent some time cracking it open, and I'm going to rinse out this tank. I've already been online to the HIPA store. HIPA is an aftermarket brand that I trust most of the time. And I'm going to get the replacement carburetor, fuel lines, and we're going to install that and hope we can get this thing back up and running. So I'll wait for that to arrive. When it does, I'll turn the camera back on and I'll show you the process for installing that. Hello and welcome back. It's definitely starting to look like a mower shop here. I guess that's because it is. But we're back today with the Poulan Pro leaf blower, and this has been sitting on my table here for several days in many pieces, and I'm hoping that I haven't forgotten how it all goes back together. But I was waiting for the arrival of our replacement carburetor, which is right here on the table in front of you now. And this is the HIPA brand replacement, which I try to buy if I'm going to buy a replacement. And it took longer to get here because I did not get this from their Amazon store, which would get here in a day or two, but I bought it from their online store, hippastore.com. And I guess that was just, I didn't find this particular carburetor on their Amazon store, so I bought it off their website. Just took a little longer to get here. So we've got the carburetor. Seems to match up okay. The only difference I see is that on the original, our fuel line connections are coming off at an angle. One of them is here. The other one's straight. I don't think that will make any difference whatsoever. We get a new spark plug, which is probably not of a high quality. I won't be using it. I am going to use an NGK quality plug there. I get new fuel lines, and got two different sizes, which is good. Fuel filter, gasket, and an extra primer bulb. So, purge bulb. So let's see if we can get this thing back up and running. So I spent some time, all the fuel lines had completely deteriorated, as I may have told you. I spent some time cleaning out this gas tank. It's really nice now, and we've got to put it into place, and then insert the fuel lines. And where in the world are the holes? Here they are on the side here. And they have to, so that's going to go right up there. The fuel lines come out here, and if I'm not mistaken, when we have the other half put on, they come out here, they come out this hole right here to our carburetor, which is somewhere out here. So it's a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle, but I'm going to connect those fuel lines to the tank first, and then we'll be able to start putting it all back together. And following that, I got a similar project right over there with the same kind of situation, rotted fuel lines, and I'm waiting for replacement carburetor. All right, so let's get going here. All right, I'm going to cut these fuel lines at a slight angle just to make it easier to feed in there. I'm pretty sure that the pickup line is this thicker one. We'll have to test that, make sure because the other ones were so rotted. I think this thicker line's coming off the bottom here, but again, it's all rotted in a mess that I didn't have a clear picture of what was what. All right, that I'm going to push that through a little bit more. Then I'll cut this one also at an angle. And if this is the purge line, then I don't have to get as much of it into the tank, but we'll work on that for a little bit, and then we'll be back together again right after that. All right, I connected my fuel lines temporarily. I wanted to make sure I've got them oriented correctly. I got the right one hooked up, properly hooked up. So I got I propped the fuel tank between these two blocks, and I've got the, all right, so it's working. When I primed it, pressed the primer bulb, and it returns through there. So, all right, I just needed to confirm that I had everything hooked up in the proper hose going to the right place, so we can move forward now. All right, so I've got the fuel tank fitted into the side here, and it's time to put all the pieces and stuff back together. The fuel lines coming out, going down, and then they have to come out through this hole. So I need that to happen as we then start to put this all back together. And I want to make sure they don't get kinked or damaged or hurt. And this is where the fun begins, because I got to try to remember how this all goes back together. And I expect that I may end up making a few mistakes, but you know, so where this piece, he fits out here. I think we're okay. I got this piece goes on the bottom, and I got to get that in before I clamp it down too tight, but something up here doesn't feel like it's jiving. So this is just what it's going to be like to try and get it all back together. All right, that feels pretty good right there. And there's just a whole vast array of parts and screws, and yeah. So I'm going to fight with this for a little bit, try to secure it, get it all put back together. And you don't need to see me fight with that, I don't think. That would be too interesting. But just a jigsaw puzzle, you know. It's a reverse of what we did, except it was just a few days ago. And it's hard to remember exactly what it was. All right, let me wrestle with that, and then we'll talk again soon. Well, it's sufficiently back together, and we're ready to install the carburetor before we can go any further. So we've got carburetors coming up here. Then we got this plate go on top of that, and our air filter, and then this. And I thought it was interesting, you know, stop on this is really just pushing the red lever all the way to the down position. Well, what's the red lever? It's the throttle plate. So you cut this thing off by just completely closing that throttle plate, and then of course it won't be getting any fuel. There's no electronic, no electric grounding out of the ignition coil. It's just a stopping the flow of gas through the carburetor. That's how you stop it. So kind of interesting. And I think he's going to go like that. Okay, I think we're good. I don't see any gasket here other than this rubber gasket, and I guess we're just going to be reusing that. So I have plenty of fuel line, which is good. So I'm going to cut it and attach it to these two spots. The top one should be easier. Both of these inlets are the same size, so getting the smaller hose onto this one is not too terribly easy, but we're going to give it our best shot. Okay, fuel line's connected. And this plate cover and these screws. And these are just going into that plastic spacer between the engine block and the carburetor, so don't crank them down too hard. Alright, so here's my homemade air cleaner. Interesting, eh? Then this plate covers it, and a couple of screws to hold this on. More like on the home stretch. There it is. Carburetor's installed. Everything looks good. All right. Just about ready to test this guy out. All right, I think we're about done here. I have a couple of confessions. I got this thing all back together and I got one screw left over. For the life of me, I don't know where that belongs. And guess what? I don't care that much. I'm not going to take it apart to keep searching. I think I've got enough screws holding this together. Confession number 2. There was a rubber grommet at the outlet here of the spark plug wire. And I didn't get that on properly. And guess what? I'm not going to do anything about that either. I don't see any problem there. Well, let's add some fuel and see if this thing is ready to cooperate for us. I think maybe I want to open up the high-speed jet just a tad bit. I think it should run just a little bit faster than that. Let me see what I can do. So I don't know if it's correct, but I got to push both the choke and the throttle down to get it to shut off. All right, so I was correct that it would run a little better opening up that main jet. Requires a special screwdriver, kind of like that. Then it was running better. Took me a while to restart it. I didn't like that. I also see it looks like my gas tank is leaking, and I don't like that either. Might need a new filler cap or something. But it's certainly back in business. Alright, I think that's pretty good. So HIPAA for the win. Great job. Alright, I do thank you for watching today. Like I think I said before, I don't really like working on some of this low-end stuff, but it is back up and running, and hopefully it'll work okay for the owner of this blower. And maybe if you got one of these, it's really not too terribly difficult. If you don't mind doing jigsaw puzzles, to take it apart, change out the carburetor, and put it back together again. And now I think it's running reasonably well. At least it's running a lot better than it was when it came. Your comments and questions are always appreciated in the discussion below, so please take a chance to communicate with me that way if you want to. I thank you for watching, and remember guys, like I always like to say, it's only you that can put the do in a do-it-yourself. And I'll see you on our next video. Bye.